You're listening to This Week in No Code plus AI, with weekly episodes sharing the latest advancements of AI, plus exclusive interviews, founders using these tools. So without any further ado, let's get started. Hey, I'm JJ, and I'm here with David, the CEO and founder of GPTrends, a new AI search analytics tool. And today, David's going to be talking us through why AI search is so popular right now, the change from SEO to AI search visibility, and all the things that you could be doing for your brand to get your ranking in AI search. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, JJ. Lots going on in the SEO land. The whole landscape has been changing very rapidly within the last 12 months. So excited to talk a bit about how we're seeing it, what we've been working on, and yeah, anything you'd like, really.
Awesome. This is a labs episode, which means we're going to get especially hands-on with David leading the show and showing you how you could do more of this with his tool, GPTrends. But first, David, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you even started this company in the background there.
Yeah, of course. So my background's actually in data science and analytics. Started my career at Twitter and worked on sort of growth analytics, always very tied to marketing. How do we acquire customers, find new users, retain them, et cetera. So that's always really been my passion. I've shifted around, worked at a couple companies in tech space and product management, but always gravitated back towards using data in smart ways and thinking about funnel optimization. Where are new users coming from? How do they convert? And, over the last couple of years, Google has always really been synonymous with organic growth and discovery via SEO, right? That's been the key if we're not paying for ads, and there are other channels, but organic growth has really been synonymous with Google. And I've done some work with startups, with bigger companies, and, basically trying to figure out, okay, if we're a small startup, how are we using and discovering new tools, whether they're AI related or not? And my discovery process has always really been Google driven. That's how you find out about things on the internet for the last 15, 20 years. Obviously, that's shifting now. In the last couple of years with the rise of ChatGPT, Perplexity, and other, more search related products, and even Google itself with the introduction of AI mode and AI overviews, the mechanism for discovering new products and services has really changed. You can go way deeper with customization in ChatGPT, tell them your needs, tell them your specific asks. I need easy to use, has integrations. You can just go way deeper. And we've seen that although ChatGPT is growing, it's still smaller than Google. A lot of early adopters, especially in the software space, are doing more and more procurement and discovery through AI apps. So that was really the impetus for it.
And when did you get started?
Well, we've been working on it now for about 8 months. We did a launch maybe about 5 months ago in June or July and have been taking it from there. Small team, but growing, and really we try and take an approach where we're pretty hands-on with customers, iterate on their feedback quickly, and yeah, a lot of new stuff in store. So excited to share that
Cool.
with you too.
Cool. Well, why don't you pull up your screen here and we'll get hands-on and we'll start to show how a brand can work to become more visible in AI search results, which, is the holy grail right now. As you were saying, SEO is changing. People are going to AI search more and more. And now it's like, okay, well, AI search results is the new SEO in many ways. How do we make sure that we're showing up there, especially when our SEO traffic is declining in many ways? So I
Right.
think that this is especially important to show brands of all sizes how they can start to regain that control with tools like yours.
Yeah. And yeah, thanks for that intro. I think it's particularly important. You mentioned this all starts from a basis of SEO. And although the mix is changing, AI products are becoming more and more prominent. We also don't want to forget about standard SEO or showing up in Google. And even more importantly, Google itself is changing in these ways that make it more applicable. There's AI overviews at the top of the page, people are probably familiar with. And then now rolling out is an AI mode experience, which is a lot like ChatGPT or Gemini, right? So the whole shift towards AI SEO, and whether you want to call it, there's a couple of names out there in the industry. I think people are fighting back and forth over it. There's GEO, generative engine optimization. There's AEO, answer engine optimization. It doesn't matter. The point is that, our goal is to be recognized by LLMs and apps in which they're embedded and have visibility. So jumping right into the tool here, and I'll show you a product that's already set up, but I'm also happy to show a bit
Sure.
of what it looks like from a new user perspective as well. But just getting hands-on, as you mentioned, this is a product called Amplitude, which is a product analytics product. Maybe some folks are familiar with this, but kind of, bread and butter when it comes to one level beyond Google Analytics. There's also Mixpanel, Sendo, a couple others in the space, but this is essentially just want to show the core of what their AI visibility looks like. And so right off the top, you can see a visibility percentage. And this is sort of the North Star metric for anyone that's looking to understand how frequently they're appearing in AI responses. And unlike the Google days, which is more deterministic, if I do a search keyword query in a certain location, in a certain language, I'm likely to show up or I'm not going to show up. And I have a ranking. However, with LLMs, since they are probabilistic instead of deterministic, you're going to show up a percentage of the time. For instance, I might show up one time with the same prompt, and then on the next time, I might not show up at all. And although that seems kind of counterintuitive and peculiar, it's really a product of the way in which LLMs work by trying to predict the next text word in the sequence. You're not always going to get a binary outcome of yes or no, if that makes sense. So really the main metric we track is visibility. And here you can see visibility over time for the various engines.
Is that visibility for like a specific keyword or like your brand
This
mention?
this is, and we'll go into the prompts in a second, and prompts in AEO sort of replaces the notion of keywords. This is combined. So we'll break it down by prompts and then by tags, which are kind of topics. But right now, this is across the board of everything that you're tracking. What percentage of the responses are you appearing in? And so you can kind of see there's variability here across the AI apps, Perplexity, AI Overviews, AI Mode, and ChatGPT. We also have Gemini. But the interesting thing is actually they have a lot more visibility than the blue line at the bottom, which is Google Organic. And if we break it down to your point of, okay, it varies a lot by the prompts or what you're actually asking. We have modes in which users can import their keywords from traditional SEO, but also they can, set up different prompts and different topics. And if we sort by visibility, it kind of illustrates the point of what I was mentioning earlier, where sometimes you can show up and sometimes you won't. So for Amplitude's core features, prompts of recommend analytics product growth products, or recommend real-time user analytics, or what are the top tools for funnel analysis. These have always been Amplitude's bread and butter, let's say. That's kind of what they've been focused on for a while. And you can see the visibility in this area, they're showing up in 90 to 100% of their responses. And you can see this across different platforms. This is really their strength. And that's also, I can touch upon this in a bit. That's why it helps to pick a representative and diverse set of prompts. We don't want to only pick your strong suits and then say, great, you're visible in 100% of responses. But as we saw, the overall visibility is around 50%. So that's because in some other areas, maybe newer features that they're working on, like what are the top real-time analytics tools, or even what are the best A/B testing tools, you can see they're only showing up in 4% of the responses. And even for some of them, what are the best session replay tools? I know they added this probably within the last year or so. That's very new for them. And actually, they have some visibility on Perplexity, but for ChatGPT, they're not showing up in any of the responses.
I guess the next question is, and I'm sure going to get to this, but how do you impact that? Like, how do you show up more in those responses? I mean, that's the first thing I think of is like, 50%. Now, how do we get to 100%?
Yeah, of course. And a lot of it, I would say, builds upon fundamental SEO, but with different tweaks and potentially different topic areas. If you think about SEO as it's been over the last few years, you can roughly divide it into two categories. The first being, what do I do with my own content, my own website, my own blog? And this is usually referred to as on-page optimization, The next being, what do I do with everything else? How do I build authority? It used to be all about getting links. It's not about that anymore. And I'll talk about that in a bit, but we can refer to this as off page, but we like to talk about it as sort of PR or authority building. But it's easiest to think about the first category first and on page, and really what we encourage customers to think about and the way we try and set up the product is, if I'm looking at certain prompts, or topics, and here we can actually group them by tags. We already saw that sometimes I have pretty good visibility. So in my legacy products, I have pretty good visibility, but in my new features, I only have 21%, right? And so that speaks to me and says, one, if I really do have these features, it's probably about making sure that they're more represented in my content, in my messaging, in my PR, in my social media, etc. That's the high level strategy. It's, if we really do have these features, and let's go back to the specific features so we can just give a concrete example. What are the best A/B testing tools? We built A/B testing in Amplitude. We know we have it. We know it's a good product. Why are we only showing up in 4% of the responses? And if I click in here, I can actually see who's doing better, right? So I can see here, Optimizely is showing up in 99%. A/B Tasty, some of these is like more prominent A/B testing tools. This kind of shows to me like, hey, in this area, we need to do a better job with our content, and we need to evaluate what we have so far, but most likely we need to do a better job pushing new blog posts, making the landing page really rich, understanding by looking at what these guys at the top of visibility are doing, seeing if we can emulate sort of that to basically plug what we call like a content gap, right?
Yeah, and that's on-page content you're referring to right now, right?
Yeah, that's on-page content. And, the best way to do it is to sort of look at what you have, stack up against the competitors, and see if you're directly answering this question of what are the best A/B testing tools. And we've
Yep.
tried to do that with a little, basically an AI data analyst for SEO. And so right now it's sifting through and analyzing things. It might take a bit because there's a lot of data in here, but essentially what we want to compare is, hey, you have some competitors that are doing better in this space than you. There's a couple ways to go about it. We can do it with off-page stuff, which I'll get to in a bit, but the most important part is making sure that you're representing your products and features to the best of their abilities on your own site. And so what we just did, or what the recommendations just did in the background, was go ingest all that prompt data we just looked at, go scrape your website, go scrape your competitors' websites, and basically find areas in which we think there's an opportunity. And one of them that I came up with here is, hey, look, Optimizely has close to 100% on A/B testing. You only have 4% visibility on A/B testing. We went and looked at your website. It doesn't look like you have much materials there. So the recommendation is address the content gap by creating an A/B testing tools guide, positioning Amplitude towards the top, obviously, but maybe talking about some other tools, comprehensive landing page or blog post comparing A/B testing tools, including Amplitude alongside competitors. That's essentially the recommendation here. And of course, you can find more of these, but we also try and pull it forward and make so you don't have to go sift through everything, right?
Yeah, so that would be recommendation for on-page, essentially create a specific landing page for this keyword, create maybe a blog article for this keyword, add it to the footer, the site links, and then, link. So like just good SEO structure.
Yeah. And the one thing I would add to that, because you get the question a lot of, okay, well, isn't this just what SEO is in general? And I think to a certain extent, that's true. The main things I would say in response to that is, one, the content gaps you're identifying here might be very different than the keyword gaps you identify in Google search. I mean, you have a number of different platforms to look at. ChatGPT, I'd say, is the most important, but also looking at Perplexity, Claude and others. And you might have very different content gaps just by the way that the ingestion has worked. So there might be areas for you to improve that you might not know about if you were just looking at Google. But then two, and equally importantly is the style of content you want to create is slightly different in that the content structure for AI answers really needs to be very succinct, data rich. It should be citing sources. It should be pulling in data. It should be having tables. You should be including quotations from experts, and it needs to be digestible. And a good rule of thumb for this is sort of try to emulate a bit of the style in which ChatGPT might respond. So having well-structured paragraphs with an intro, with a table, with bullet points, with conclusion. This is all really helpful because this is the way that tokenization will work with LLMs on the back end. Whereas in the olden days, it was really about keyword stuffing and
Right,
having a
right.
big long article where you're hitting a ton of keywords.
Yep.
That's not it anymore. You want to directly answer the questions in easy to digest, but
And
succinct
then
and
back it
data
up.
rich
Yeah.
ways. So, it's about creating content and plugging those gaps, but also doing it in a way that is the appropriate structure and format in order to be easily ingested by LLMs and their bots.
So essentially, LLMs are looking for a response that is a neutral, expert-backed response that they can say, yes, this is the response to this question that you just answered, because I could see that you have given multiple sources, you have testimonies from other experts. Like, this is kind of a good response to show in that way.
And answers the question directly more than
Yep.
anything, right?
Yep.
And that's why FAQs are, I wouldn't call it a hack, but very valuable, because if you hit an FAQ that matches the user's question, that's a great indication to the LLM
Right.
of, hey, this is very, very relevant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, that speaks to a lot of the additional on-page SEO work that needs to be done and how we almost need to restructure our pages for
Yeah.
search engines or AI search crawlers in this way.
Yeah. And I'm happy to transition and talk about off page as well, because, it all starts with citations.
Hmm.
So you can kind of think of an LLM answer or an answer from ChatGPT as having two parts. The first part of which is the large language model itself, or what goes into the training data. And that is harder to influence, or at least the time scale is longer, right? These things have 6 to 9 month training period. It's trained offline. And so if you, back in the day, you probably remember, I say back in the day, but it was only a
Hmm.
year ago,
Hmm.
before these things were hooked up to the internet, if you weren't in the training data, you weren't
You
really
weren't there.
you weren't going to be there at all.
Yeah.
Now, what a big progression has been what's called grounding, or also called retrieval augmented generation, RAG, where a large percentage of the time, these things will go and perform a web search as well. So the important part now actually is more of getting in the web search part, and that's a bit easier to influence. It's faster to update, etc.
But
So
that's only what, the first 20 pages now?
it depends. These it depends on the LLM. A lot of them build their own index. So ChatGPT has been moving towards, it's been using the Bing index and then moving towards building its own too, and we can see that in the crawling.
Okay.
But it will, go basically take your query, go turn that into keywords, which is called query fan out, and then go do searches and pull in sources. And maybe the best way to illustrate this is just to go back to our A/B testing example. And if we look at, you can go check on the full response and see what it says. And you can see here in the response, there's different products that are named, and then it has different sources, right? So it has different citations that come up as well. And that, is what online materials it's referencing. And we've found that only around 10% of those are actually going to be the brand's own content. So the brand's own on-page blog, on-page landing page, etc. A lot of these are going to be third parties, and that's why the whole off-page, or I prefer to call it, authority building, really comes into play. And the main way to look at that is to look at all the responses, and group the citations together. So for the prompts we're tracking, we can see here are the most referenced pages, or not pages, here are the actual web properties, the domains. So one of them really interesting is productschool.com, which I'm sure is talking a lot about A/B testing and product analytics. And so they recommend different tools, and that's what's being referenced. And we can actually go look at the individual pages, and you can see, for example, like the CPO club, which I'm guessing is like a chief product officer club,
Yeah.
the best user analytics tools.
Yep.
We come down and we see product school, best product analytics tools. And so,
It's like others vouching for you in that way.
yeah. And you can see a lot of these are people vouching for themselves, right? Like Pendo saying the top 10 analytics tools, and they're an analytics tool. And that's one way to go. But we've seen that the LLMs are actually downweighting recommendations that are coming from the same domain, which can make
Sure.
sense, right? Like I'm saying I'm the best. Here's a top 10 list and I'm the best. Obviously, they're going to start to downweight that. So the overall strategy as far as off page, which is probably equally important, if not more important than on page, but a little bit more out of your control, is to go find all the all your competitors for your prompt set that are being referenced, and what are the citation sources. Citations or sources, same thing. You want to then go see, hey, am I being referenced in here? Or even better, is my competitor being referenced, but I'm not? So we try and show that to you. And essentially, once you identify this list of high value sources that are authorities in your area, are cited often, maybe reference your competitors, you need to go then try and get placement and reach out to them. That's kind of the challenging part. There's a number of ways you can do this. Back in the old days of SEO, this was called link building, where you just go and pay a bunch of people to give you links.
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend that as much anymore. It's still important, but it's definitely not the be all end all, especially now when it comes to LLMs. It's about being mentioned, and being mentioned in the right context around your tool, and showing the, showing your product in the light in which you want it to be shown, whether it's ease of use, price, affordability, etc. But essentially, you go reach out to these companies, and we don't do this directly, but we recommend in our product a number of tools that people can use, and you can get placement. It's not always, if it's the right fit and you offer them content, often this can be free. Other times it's an affiliate link that you provide.
Sure.
And sometimes it's, it's payment, but it's essentially about, trying to get mentions on these top priority sources, or at least ones that are in similar areas, if that makes sense.
Is that why we're seeing so much about Reddit buzz and trying to do more on Reddit?
Yeah.
Because
And
responding to these keywords and people mentioning you in that light.
yeah, and that it's the same, it's in the same vein. I think why Reddit's gotten so much buzz is because you can go try and do that yourself. I mean, it's difficult, right? Because of all the self-promotion rules and all that, but there's a couple low-hanging fruit here which you can go do. Not all of these involve going and reaching out to third parties and trying to get placement. Some of them you can control yourself. And so Reddit is a very good example of that. YouTube is another great example of that. These models are trained on Reddit and YouTube. Wikipedia, if that's an option for you, is great. And then the other low-hanging fruit, I would say, is all the review sites, or anywhere where you can have a profile. So if you're in the software space, that might be like G2, Capterra, it might be Product Hunt, it might be Crunchbase, anywhere
Yep.
where you can have a profile, LinkedIn, anywhere where you can have a profile and you can control that and have a bit of a blurb around you and build authority. That's where I would start. Reddit's gotten a lot of buzz because it was at the top of the sources that were cited, but you can see it's really, my answer to that is not always, because it's dependent on your product. I mean, we're looking at the top sources here, and CPO Club has over 2,000 citations. I think Reddit probably will show up in here, but it's going to be a lot further down. So it's not always like Reddit is the top, right? It just depends. So I'm sure Reddit will come up here, but I think why it's gotten a lot of buzz is because it's free, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about social media? So
Sorry to
um,
interrupt you, but yeah, Reddit does show up here, and some are being cited, but 400 compared to 2,500. So it's an important source for Amplitude and this product
mhm,
space, but maybe not as prominent. I think why it's gotten a lot of notoriety along with something like Quora is you can go, it's open, right? It's not
yeah,
necessarily a paid situation.
yeah. For social media, say we have a brand and we just focus on one social media platform, because maybe that's where we see the most interest and engagement. Would you advise that brand to share the same post on every single social media platform so the AI search results can index all those different queries and everything and add to that? Or do you think even that's not going to add the value because maybe those other platforms don't get engagement, et cetera?
Um, it's going to be dependent on the LLM itself because they all have different sources. I mean, if we're talking about Grok and Elon Musk's one, then that pulls a lot from X and Twitter. Um, but in short, I would say why not? I mean, it's not only about doing this for ingestion in LLMs. It's also if you have that content, repurposing it a bit, making it adequate for the platform. Um, that's gonna that's a win-win. It feels like why not? And the
Hmm.
more that can get picked up, I know, for example, like a lot of LinkedIn posts get restructured and formatted into Google, and then that can make it into the Google LLM training as well. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think that's important. I think maybe the flip side of your question is almost like, well, if we're not really tailoring it for that platform, maybe it won't get engagement, and then maybe that won't be helpful for ingestion. It's a good point. I think having it out there is going to
Not having it.
outweigh any downsides of having low engagement. Just because, and I'll show you
Yeah.
this in a sec, but there's so much crawling activity by AI bots and agents that the more you can put out there, the better, I
Yeah.
would say.
By the way, David, I recently did an interview with Michelle from Try Flint, and she's working on autonomous websites. And so
Oh yeah.
websites that can dynamically build themselves. And so if they detect an agent, they'll build the website to be very friendly for that agent crawling
Yeah.
compared to that person. And what you're sharing with me today makes that company even more, makes it so much more make sense to me.
Yeah. And that's a great segue to kind of that's a lot of where our focus is going next because we're basically seeing that ChatGPT at this point is giving people text answers and then they're taking it from there. It's a research tool, but folks have probably noticed OpenAI, ChatGPT, and others really want to start doing things on your behalf.
Yep.
They have agent mode, there's deep research, there's even a browser that ChatGPT and Perplexity have come out with. So the future probably looks a lot like a world where you have some tasks to do on the internet, and maybe some of those are finding new products to buy and to check out. And you're then delegating an agent to go not only give you information to recommend it to you, but give you very customized research. And I, funnily enough, for my mom the other day, I was helping her shop for new broadband, like new fiber connectivity at her house. And that
I
process,
think,
yeah, that process is painful, right? It's just like going through every single site, filling out forms, putting in your address. And so
yeah.
that's something that's great to delegate to an agent like ChatGPT agent mode. And basically what we're seeing is that the future of web is one in which, of course, companies like Flint are optimizing for us are already where more and more of your traffic is going to be coming from bots and agents.
Yep.
And you need to sort of be prepared for, okay, I have my users that are showing up and they might do a few things and I've engineered my website to be pretty and, have nice animations, but really that might not be what agents are looking for. They're looking for the pricing. They're looking for what my product offers directly. So I think that's a super smart move. And we want to basically allow companies to understand how they are being visited and ingested by bots.
Yep.
So the next tool we're working on is called Agent Analytics, and this is set up with a customer of ours, where you can see just over the last week they get thousands of requests from the different platforms. And some of these will
Crawler.
be to train the models themselves. Some of them will be to build a search index. But you can basically look and say, hey, what are they doing? What are they interested in? And the kind of cool hack, I would call it, is that LLM optimization at this point has been a bit of guesswork in the sense that you need to pick the prompts to track.
Hmm.
And it's a bit of, okay, well, are people actually talking about these topics and these keywords and these prompts? The interesting thing you can do is if you just look at the OpenAI agents, they have three types that come in. They have one which is GPT bot for training the LM. They have another which is to build a search index. Then they have this one that's called ChatGPT user. And this is super interesting because this one will come to your website in response to someone prompting on ChatGPT
Mm,
in real time, which is
wow.
pretty awesome. So what that allows you to do is then say, okay, let me look at this particular agent. Let me go look at what pages they're hitting. And you can see, in essence, what people are interested in. So you might have a blog post that's top 2025 option strategies that's getting 700 visits. Another one about mobile trading apps, 600 visits. Those are getting a lot more traction than maybe some other blog posts that are just getting 40 or 50. And folks may have heard of this in the SEO world. It's called like log file analysis or crawler analysis. That was mostly just to check that your content was being ingested correctly. But now what we can do by looking at these logs is start to model, and we can even do it by topic, start to say like, group my blog posts into different topics, and then go find which topics are most interesting to users on ChatGPT. And that then takes a lot of guesswork out of it, right?
Yeah.
Because instead of me coming up with a list of prompts and seeing if I'm in the answers, I now actually know what people are prompting and searching for. And then I can start to use this to develop my prompt set because I know it's relevant, right? I'm not seeing so much um, on options calculators, even though I built out 9 pages in this area. Most of it is actually on market insights and option strategies, right? So that kind of helps you from a content standpoint as well.
That is really cool. That gets me quite excited, and I think you're really onto something with this. Makes so much sense, right? It's like, okay, data is king. Let's first understand it, and then let's do something about it. And so the first thing you showed was let's understand it, and now this is helping us do something about it, which I think so many of us need to do now because it's such a it's a new frontier. There's so many new things that we need to work towards, and so having these content gaps or clusters are really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, I think this is just the beginning on this. Agents and bots already comprise 30% of web traffic. We're going to go in that direction where we're going to start delegating tasks, to ChatGPT or others to go do our research and find our products and do our shopping for us. And so right now it's pretty invisible to the average website owner. Most of these bots don't even run JavaScript, so they're not going to show up in Google Analytics, which is a big blind spot, right? And so you might see some requests, but you can see here there's lots of requests that are coming in. There's thousands a day, and these aren't showing up in any standard analytic tools. And of course, there are some bad bots, and we want to make sure that we block ones that are spamming or stealing our content. But for the most part, I think businesses, maybe unlike an author or publication where they're more concerned around blocking bots, we actually want to make sure that from a business standpoint, you're getting ingestion, they're understanding your content, they're understanding what you offer, and then turning that into answers for real humans, right? So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out in the next couple of years. I don't know if, today I'm not necessarily going to agent mode on ChatGPT and asking it to order a pizza to my house, but maybe down the line it will. I think it's great for bigger purchases right now that require a lot of research, like car insurance or finding a mortgage or finding flights, things that, I would be going and visiting 50, 60 websites, takes me a couple hours. That's really a great use case right now.
What about find out the difficulty? Like I think you see how much you show up, and then it's like, well, I want to show up for these other prompts or these other keywords, but maybe it's really difficult too. Like, is there any kind of visibility into the keyword difficulty or the difficulty
Yeah,
score of like getting
uh,
there?
we have volume at the moment, which is a proxy from traditional search and then some AI inputs. And so this will be kind of your proxy for keyword difficulty. Um, Obviously, some such as this is a pretty generic one, data-driven decision making. That's tops, but that's kind of the best way to look at it. I would also just start to see, mostly using traditional search as proxies and trying to see how many people are bidding for these. You can also look at like ad costs in these areas. It's always a flip side, right? Because it's always a trade-off. You're going to get a bit more traction there. There's a bigger opportunity size, but you might get less traction. So I would try and kind of keep it a balance. And if you are a niche product, the great thing is that there's more areas of exposure on AI platforms, because instead of people searching 3 or 4 keywords, they're stringing together very specific requests that are customized to what their needs are and what their existing solution is or all their constraints. So we actually found that a lot more long tail or smaller products can show up. So whereas before, maybe you just thought it wasn't worth it, here, with those niches, that's actually what people are doing. They're going deep in searching with ChatGPT, Perplexity, and others. And so presents a lot of opportunity for new players as well, I think.
That's great. And this might be hard to summarize, but let's say for the folks starting a new startup and they want to start working on their SEO and search engine visibility. What's some advice that you can give them of like, here are the things that you should look at implementing and tackling to start working towards building this online presence,
And
not only but
from
yeah,
the very start, or as a new business or someone thinking about,
as a new business. Yeah.
yeah, I think, don't overcomplicate it from the start, as far as, there's really nothing to optimize yet if you don't yet have your presence, right? So, we're a startup ourselves, and we went through these challenges as well. And it's really about building out a solid landing page, having a few other feature pages that talk about what you do, building out FAQ section, and make sure that you have a web presence to begin with, right? So don't just expect to put up a dynamic landing page with, I don't know, 30, 40 lines of text and expect to start showing up. So I'd say just do the basics first. And a lot of those basics will apply to traditional SEO, showing up on Google Blue Links. They'll also apply to this. That's what I would tackle. So starting with a really comprehensive landing page, share what you do, share some FAQs, talk about your different features. Make sure, importantly here, that your pages are server-side rendered. So if you use a lot of JavaScript, that might work for Google, but it's not going to work for ChatGPT and others. They just won't find out about it. So that's like the best technical advice I could give. But then do the basics, make sure you have a robots.txt file. Make sure you're not blocking these bots. Stand up a blog and start answering key questions, that users are looking for. And ways to sort of form these are, one, to take your existing keywords and use a tool like Ahrefs or some other SEO tool to find keywords. 2, just to know what people have been interested in. You do this based on your own website of what pages are being hit. You can do this on what support requests you're getting, what people are talking about on social media, and start building out pages, whether that's blog or landing pages, to answer those topic areas. And try and write in the way I mentioned before, with concise answers, cite sources, cite data, use bullet points, have FAQs. But I'd say first and foremost, just doing your on-page content building is the most important thing. And then you can go into off-page, but at the start, just keep it simple and make sure you have that presence, right? Like everything's going to start from there.
For folks that are interested in using GP Trends, what would be the right business for you? Like, what is a good customer for you? Like, we are talking about like new businesses that might not even have, a web presence yet. I assume they're a bit early, but like, who is that right customer of like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense to use GP Trends?
Yeah, so we don't have any particular niche or industry that we work with. Although what we've seen that works best is mostly software or SaaS services that have a bit of web presence as far as the pages on their landing page, and a bit of traffic. And then also showing up in Google at least a little bit helps, because you saw we also track Google, and then that can help us give signal on, hey, you're ranking in Google for these topics or these prompts, but not on the LLMs. That's a really good indicator on where you should focus. But yeah, we work with all sorts of companies, mostly because our tool is more affordable than, let's say, like the big SEMrush AI tools, or even some of the startups like Profound. I think they're charging $400 or $500 just to get in the door. We have a free version of ours, and our intro plan starts at $50 a month. We're basically geared for kind of scrappy companies in the seed stage to say, I'd say Series B, Series C. It doesn't have to be SaaS, but most of our customers are B2B or consumer SaaS. And then just people that are interested too in grounding this whole process in data and looking at the website's visits by bots and agents. And I'm not going to lie, JJ, a lot of the tools out there at this point, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn and people claiming to have, magically solved AI visibility with hacks and do X, Y, and Z. And if those work for a little bit, they're fleeting.
Mhm.
And so to me, it's all about grounding in data, seeing, really where you show up, where you don't, the citations, the competitors, and then experimenting and trying things over time, building out certain pages, seeing if you improve. And so we just try and offer the most visibility possible and the most transparency too. And then, root things in what we see as the future, like agent analytics and monitoring bot and agent activity.
Yeah, this was a lot of really good stuff. Thank you for taking the time to share that with our audience.
Yeah, no problem.
I've learned a ton myself. It seems like a really great tool and just something that you need to start monitoring and start building towards. This stuff takes time. It takes time to implement the content and whatnot, but understanding where you are, understanding what type of things AI search engines are looking for, server-side rendering, all those kind of things are really good indicators of like, okay, this is where we need to move. This is where the
Yeah.
future is going, no doubt. Let's start working towards that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is evolving. It's a new field, and as we mentioned, what will websites look like in 2-3 years time if instead of 30% bot traffic, it's 90%? Maybe we don't need everything, and so I'm excited to see where the space goes. And I think just practical advice would be just get ahead of this a bit. You definitely don't want to be caught flat-footed, and the more you can be nimble and on the cutting edge of this, the more opportunity you have before others catch on too. So, yeah, super interesting space, and happy to be working in it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And for those that want to get started, can you tell them how do they get started with GP Trends?
Yeah, you can just get started at gptrends.io. You can either sign up right away or request a demo and have a quick intro call. Also, we can do 20% off for anyone that are fans of the pod. And that would be for the first month. And we also have a free version. We have a free audit tool as well. And then the agent analytics, sort of the Google Analytics, but for agents, we're looking to make completely free. So yep, get in touch, gptrends.io, reach out, send me a note, and happy to help anyone get started.
Cool. Can we put the coupon for the 20% off in the description of this video?
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Nice to be with you.